Hello, this is Commander Turin, and today I want to talk to you about some Commander slash EDH cards, specifically with an emphasis on Chaos decks. So if you're playing a Chaos deck, obviously it's one of those decks where you just kind of want to throw a wrench in things. You're just messing around with your friends, just heavily manipulating the board position, even if it's to your disadvantage, just for the sake of entertainment. So today we'll begin. So the first card obviously should be a staple of any Chaos type deck, and again, you'll have to play red to use this, but red is the ultimate Chaos color in my opinion. Regardless, it's Warp World. So each player essentially shuffles all their permanents into his or her library, then reveals that many cards from the top of his or her library. You then essentially put cards directly into play. So this can drastically alter the state of a game. It's a lot of fun to use, and it'll usually get a fun reaction out of your playgroup. The next card, Heartless Hitagetsu. He's a fun general. Again, he's one of those guys that just throws a wrench in the game. More often than not, you'll end up, hosing yourself with it, but, you'll also take everyone else down with you. Obviously, cards like World Fire are banned in EDH, but, this is the next best thing. So next, these are some other cards that I really enjoy in my Chaos type decks. You have Ice Cave. So essentially what this does is whenever a player plays a spell, any other player may pay that spell's mana cost, and if that player does, it is then countered. So this does include color. So obviously this is more of a niche Chaos card, I guess you could say. But this is a fun one that kind of just makes the game a little absurd. The next one, Thieves Auction. This is just a ridiculous card. So you set aside all cards in play. Starting with you, each player chooses one of the cards set aside and puts it into play tapped under his or her control. So then you repeat this process until all of those cards have been chosen. So you can imagine how in a 4-player EDH or Commander game, this can be really absurd. One forewarning, obviously if you're, playing in a public area where, you're playing with people you don't know that well, a lot of people can get pretty touchy with their cards being shifted around the table. So just a warning there. Next, these are some of my other favorite Chaos EDH cards. So Cursive Echoes. So you enchant a player with this. Whenever enchanted player casts an instant or sorcery spell, each other player may copy that spell and may choose new targets for the copy he or she controls. So obviously that explains itself. It's a lot of fun. Just again adds another Chaos element to your Commander game. Next we have Knowledge Pool. So this is another one that is just completely ridiculous. So when it enters the battlefield, each player exiles the top 3 cards of his or her library. Whenever a player casts a spell from his or her hand, that player exiles it. If the player does, he or she may cast another non-land card exiled with Knowledge Pool without paying its mana cost. So obviously this is just, not only is it confusing, but it also adds a substantial Chaos element to the game, and it's a lot of fun. You're going to be casting other people's cards. It's just complete anarchy. Next card, Puka's Mischief. It's kind of on a smaller scale than some of the previous cards we just went over, but at the beginning of your upkeep, you may exchange control of target non-land permanent you control and target non-land permanent an opponent controls with an equal or lesser converted mana cost. So obviously this is just, shifting things around the board. Just, again, one of the key things of Chaos is manipulating the board position, whether it be desirable or not, but it's a lot of fun. Next, Wheel of Fortune. Obviously, this one, this is not only a great card in, red EDH, because obviously when you're playing red and a lot of those type of decks, you can, burn out your hand pretty quick. And again, you can go down to 2-3 cards, get a fresh hand, and, other people are discarding a full hand, where they had been planning or perhaps tutoring for things. So it's actually a good card, but again, it also adds a chaos factor to your deck. Next thing, Reforge the Soul. It's essentially the same thing as Wheel of Fortune, but it does have a miracle cost. But generally, the standard mana cost is quite a bit more. Next, we have Death Cloud. So each player loses X life, discards X cards, sacrifices X creatures, then sacrifices X lands. So again, this is Chaos 101. Personally, for my Chaos deck, I've run red black. Even red black blue can be pretty good because those colors have a lot of those RNG weird board manipulation type cards. So. Next page, Goblin Game. This one is again very fun. So each player hides at least one object. Then all players reveal them simultaneously. Each player loses life equal to the number of objects he or she revealed. The player who revealed the fewest objects then loses half of his or her life rounded up. If 2 or more players are tied, each player loses half of his or her life. So again, that's a very fun kind of absurd card. It always makes things exciting. Next one is Grip of Chaos. Red enchantment. Whenever a spell or ability is put into the stack, reselect its targets at random if it has a single target. Obviously, this is fun. It's RNG, it's random, it just throws a wrench into the game. Just another fun suggestion for your Chaos Commander / EDH deck. Next, these are some of my other favorites. Confusion in the Ranks. Whenever an artifact, creature, enchantment comes into play, its controller chooses target permanent another player controls that shares a type with it. Then you exchange control of those permanents. This is fun. I mean, obviously, when you're running a Chaos deck, you're not going to have a lot of high-value permanents, so this can only help you. I mean, granted, if you're playing Chaos, you're probably not trying to win, terribly hard, but it's still a fun card, and it can actually benefit you at times. So, next is Mana Barbs. This one's fun. It kind of just puts a clock on the game and makes everyone a little more aggressive. But ultimately, I'm a big fan of Mana Barbs. It's a lot of fun. It's a classic card. I would highly recommend it for your Commander, your Chaos Commander deck. Next, this is one I actually discovered relatively recently when one of my buddies used it against me, but it's Possessed Portal. So, if a player would draw a card, that player skips the draw. So essentially there's no draw step. Secondly, at the end of each turn, each player sacrifices a permanent unless he or she discards a card from his or her hand. So this essentially just kind of slowly starves everyone out until there's, essentially no permanents left on the board. There are ways, obviously, around the disadvantages of this, but it's a lot of fun. Possessed Portal is a great card. I've actually seen it used effectively. But, again, it's just a Chaos card that kind of puts a ridiculous factor in the game. Next is Omen Machine. Again, like Possessed Portal, players can't draw cards. So at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player exiles the top card of his or her library. If it's a land card, the player puts it on the battlefield. Otherwise, the player casts it without paying its mana cost, if able. So if you're playing, mono-red Chaos or, any other combination of Chaos, you're going to have a lot of big, expensive cards that just heavily manipulate the state of the game. So Omen Machine kind of just pumps them out like, very efficiently. So I would highly recommend Omen Machine in your Chaos deck. Lastly, this is one of my favorites. Obviously, this is a very expensive card, and just one suggestion. I mean, I'm sure you obviously know this, but if you're actually just get a token and flip it. Don't actually flip the Chaos Orb. I don't know if the card, in the rules says you have to flip the actual card itself, but Chaos Orb, the name speaks for itself. It's the pinnacle of Chaos, the origin of Chaos and Magic the Gathering. It's a fun card. So if you do have it, it's a lot of fun to use. Obviously, you're not going to get as much use out of it. It's a one-time thing. It's destroyed, but it's a lot of fun. Anyways, that was my Commander / EDH Chaos card selection and suggestions. I hope you guys enjoyed, and please like and subscribe for more videos. Thanks.